one of the things I was concerned about was burnout. I didn't want to get burned out of multifamily and then make some rash decision to say, throw my hands up, I'm out of this game. I want to make sure that I still love and enjoy all the benefits that come along with multifamily for the long term. And I think a great way to do that is to have a professional distraction that can pull me away. Let me just get some of those creative juices out in another manner.
Welcome to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. Whether you are an active or passive investor, we'll teach you how to scale your real estate investing business into something big.
Joel Florek is a multifamily and RV resort investor with $18 million in assets under management. The portfolio of properties is based in Indiana and Michigan. Joel, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here today.
Pleasure's mine. 3 questions I ask every guest who comes on the show in 90 seconds or less. Where did you start? Where are you now? How did you get there?
Started with a little 4-unit building, fresh out of college. Parents helped me with the down payment, got the bank to finance the rest, and I house hacked it. Lived in 1 unit, rented out the others, and as you said, now here I am, just about 150 units, 200 site campground in the mix, family, kids, and living the dream. Couldn't be happier.
So you got out of college and you bought a 4-unit property, and then you just kept going with real estate. Was that the plan all along?
I knew as I was ending my college career that for me, financial independence was the priority. The means at which I achieved that, I wasn't really sure how things were going to shake out. I knew multifamily was going to be a part of it, and that 4-unit was the first step. I had a corporate job as a program manager, so had my day job, picked up that property, and it just so happened I was able to work out a number of creatively financed deals to be able to, grow that portfolio pretty quick. A 16-unit with just $5,000 down, about a 3-unit on a credit card, and so did a number of fun things. Another seller financed low money down deal to pick up an 8-unit. It was over a period of 3 years, those deals, but those first 31 units were, however the heck I could figure out how to put the deal together and buy it. That's how I did it. Tried finding some investors. No one really wanted to give me the time of day or trust me with their money that early. But I just said, screw it. I'll figure it out and make it work. And I did. And, and things got a little bit easier, but there's still challenges that you face every day.
How did you know, or what gave you the confidence to figure out how to do those really creative seller finance deals? I mean, that's typically not something you're like, oh, okay, I got a 4-unit. Now I'm going to go out and buy a 16-unit property, and I'm going to negotiate it to a point where the seller's willing to take $5,000 and trust me to get it done. I mean, that sounds like a needle in a haystack for most people. How'd you do that? Yeah.
I tried every other way to buy it. I mean, it was a question I asked right away. Would you guys be willing to keep any money, on the table as a seller second position or what have you? I got a degree in finance. I mean, I don't want to say I was, some financial genius, what have you, but I was familiar with lending and the process and some of the avenues. And of course, getting on, do some Google research and being on Bigger Pockets early in my career, you see a lot of that stuff. So I asked some of those questions, but ultimately we built trust over a period of months in that particular deal, that 16-unit. And through that trust that I built with the sellers, they actually came back to me with a proposal after I exhausted every other opportunity that I could, try to put together. And they said, hey, we like you. And, we think we can get this done if we keep a little money on the table. And again, originally they said no to that, but they came back, gave me the proposal. And I said, let me call my bank. Let's talk in a few days.
Right. Yeah. For $5,000 down, that sounds like a sweetheart deal, assuming that the place was, partially habitable.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was 16 units on the water. Everyone had a deck porch overlooking, all 2-bedroom, 1,100, 1,200 square foot units, carports. It was great. Small town though. And that's been kind of my niche is I have been in smaller towns, and that has allowed me, to kind of grow. Now I'm in a little more competitive of an area. I'm in, larger Chicago MSA, but still I'm playing in Chesterton, Indiana. I'm playing in Southwest Michigan, 3 Oaks, where I have, it's a 40 unit apartment complex that we bought. And the only other like multifamily is 2-3 units in the entire town. It's a tiny town, 3,000, 4,000 people, but it's down the road from a, major vacation destination, New Buffalo. And, you're still a short shot, St. Joseph with Whirlpool headquarters. And so I play in these smaller markets. Niles, a town of, 20, 30,000. That's the next exit up from South Bend where, Notre Dame is. But again, smaller MSA, smaller town, a lot less investors out clamoring for these deals. Right. So gives me a shot to get in and be able to build up a portfolio.
Yeah, that's really a compelling thesis, especially, this is all within striking distance from where you live currently. Is that right?
Originally, no. The first portfolio that I built up was all in Iron Mountain, Michigan. So I built up 23 units in Iron Mountain, Michigan, which now is like 500 miles from me. But that's where I was out of college. I lived in the town, bought the units in that town, eventually chased my wife down here to where she's from. And we were managing those units in-house from like 500 miles away for years. Went really well. Sold off that portfolio last year, did a lot of trading last year. And but now, yes, all our portfolio is, more or less within our area that I have a management team, takes care of the day-to-day. Campground's like 4.5 hours away. So we're kind of back in that boat again. But
that sounds like sort of what you'd have to do, I would think, if you're buying 16 unit properties, things like that in various small towns. Like, one, you're going to have to know the small towns, I would think. Mm-hmm. And two, it needs to be within striking distance probably of where you live, so that it's like, okay, because this isn't the hey, we're buying 400 units in Orlando, we can manage it from Cincinnati type of buy. It is
correct. And even so, I've had so many other deals that have been brought to me where if they were closer to my portfolio, I'd say, yeah, absolutely. But it's an hour in the wrong direction yet from where my stuff is. So it's like, yeah, that would have been a great 20 unit to pick up, but it's just a little too far to put onto my team for management. So it won't work for us. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're certainly spot on. But now I'm kind of getting to the, my last purchase was 44 unit. We just closed last month. Cool. Last August, closed on a 48 unit, closed on a 40 unit December before that. So right now we're kind of playing in that 50 unit range is where we're finding that I can be competitive going out in the marketplace, that I'm still seeing the cash flow and the returns that are attractive enough.
Tell me on the cap rate basis, like where are these units falling for you as a small, I'm using your term, small town investor, like what are you seeing on a cap rate basis for a 50 unit and under multifamily property?
It's a loaded question. It's a loaded question. So I love these conversations because, it obviously would be super easy if we could just be like, oh yeah, this is what the cap rate is, like super easy. But, of course, it depends what class of asset we're talking about. The 44 unit that we just closed, this is over in Chester, Indiana. It's a small town, but it's very much a part of the Chicago, Northwest Indiana MSA. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's definitely more of dense metro area, or, suburban.
Right.
But I'll use like my 48 unit that I closed over in Niles as an example, and the 40 unit. Both of those we purchased at probably like high 5, low 6 cap. depending on how you would underwrite. But in both cases, there were very clear opportunities for value add.
Right.
The 48 unit, for example, our units are $250 a unit under market rate in as is condition.
Wow.
So the challenge that you have in many of these markets, though, is there are very few comps for you to simply go and be like, oh yeah, that's what the market is
right
for these units. It's like, yeah, there's this other complex, but those units are kind of junk.
Right.
But they're getting that. Like, I think we could probably do better. So again, you really got to know your markets, and you can find these amazing diamonds in the rough where it's like, wow, this thing's killer.
Right. Yeah, that is a challenge. Something I wouldn't have thought about. What are you comping this up against? Especially if you're the only, what'd you say? You bought a property and you were the only property in town outside of a triplex, maybe or two triplex.
Three Oaks. Exactly. So you're not drawing comps necessarily from that town. What you're doing is you're looking at all the little towns within a 20-minute drive.
Right.
And trying to say, where are all of those little towns at? And is there any reason why this little town wouldn't be the same? Because, people commute from one town to the next to the next. So, they live in our particular community because it's got this adorable little downtown, and bus stop happens to be, right at the property. You go to a great school district in the next town over. So
that's awesome. Tell me about financing these deals. Are you the majority owner in them? Have you been able to build this portfolio on your own? What's that look like?
Yeah, so like the 48 unit, that was a purchase that I did on my own. The 40 unit, recently the 44 unit purchase, as well as a 15 unit townhome portfolio that we bought. Those were all syndicated deals. In each of those cases, I would be the largest owner in any of those deals. In all cases, I've been financing through larger regional or community banks that have an emphasis on lending in commercial real estate, particularly a strong multifamily arm. So I've got a short list of a half dozen different lenders that I know are competitive in the area and have the benefit of being right near Chicago. And again, we talk about small towns, but again, I'm just over an hour and I'm in downtown Loop, Chicago. So we have a huge number of lenders available that play all day in the Chicago MSA, and you can convince those lenders to stretch out if you build a relationship. So they might take a little risk on one deal, and if we have a good relationship, they'll expand that beyond their normal footprint on a client by client basis. Got it.
Tell me about this 15 unit. We talked about this a little bit. It was kind of a unique financing where you did a buyout, I think, of your investors or something really.
Yeah, we're right in the process of executing the exit for our investors. So just about 3 years ago, back in 2019, purchased this 15 unit townhome portfolio in Chesterton, Indiana. And the deal's been great. We've exceeded every metric along the way. Our investors have been getting about 10% cash on cash returns over the last year. They get their monthly distribution, and it's been everything that we expected it to be and more operationally. The way that we structured the contract, the syndication, is that the general partners would have the right to buy out the limited partner shares via an 18% IRR after a 36-month period. And the reason why we did that is, typically investors want to see a defined time horizon on what their investment is going to look like, right? That's why you typically hear 3, 5, 7 year time horizon for syndications. Well, we're really sure. I mean, it's this awesome portfolio, and I'd love to hang on to these things potentially long term. So from that standpoint, why kill the golden goose?
Right.
Right. I looked at it back in 2019. And I said, well, I don't know what the world is going to look like 3 years from now. I do know, though, that there's a good chance that I may just want to keep hanging on to these things for as long as I own properties in this area. It fits that definition of that like upper class B, class A, very insulated. Like it's going to be super hard to near impossible for someone to build something new and compete with me. So we structured this so investors have a defined time horizon on their investment. They also have an expectation, that the buyout is based on an IRR, which makes it really clear how we're going to define what their shares are valued at come the exit. And then we can just have a really clean refinance, buy out the investors, and then I'll be able to hang on to this deal for as long as we have it.
Right. Yeah. You can buy out the investors, via refinance. Are you putting any cash into the deal as well when you buy them out in order to make it hit that 18 IRR? Or has it just worked out such that, you're able to do this with a refinance and plus the cash flows and they hit their number?
In this particular deal, we'll have no problem with the refinance.
Got it.
Yeah, there won't be any issues whatsoever.
Cool. Tell me about the RV, outdoor hospitality, campground. What's that look like, and why the left turn into that?
Yeah. So, part of it is just wanting a different challenge. I feel like apartments, it's kind of the same thing over and over and over again. It's the exact same business plan, more or less the same problems that you end up dealing with over and over and over again. And one of the things I was concerned about was burnout. I didn't want to get burned out of multifamily and then make some rash decision to say, throw my hands up, I'm out of this game. I want to make sure that I still love and enjoy all the benefits that come along with multifamily for the long term. And knowing my own personality, I think a great way to do that is to have a professional distraction that can pull me away and let me just get some of those creative juices out in another manner.
Right.
Beyond that, there's a whole list of reasons. Number one, cash flow, generally much stronger. You're buying at 8 to 12 caps in that space, and I'm getting the same financing on those properties as I can multifamily. So right there, that, cash flow is going to be much stronger.
Right.
The number of levers that you can pull when it comes to adding value to those properties is infinitely larger. Kind of a cool thing. There was an old Airstream that was for sale on the highway, and we said, screw it, let's buy that thing. So we just, on a whim, bought that the other month, because one of the things we want to do is park models. So I don't have to get any approvals from any agencies to renovate this Airstream, put it on my property, and rent it out as like an Airbnb.
Right.
So what we're going to end up doing, our vision is we'd like to get 5-6 Airstreams and do like a little Airstream village on the property, string lights through the trees. It's so, that's one of those, like I say, just kind of creative, fun things that we get to do in this space. My wife wanted to kind of get involved in business, and she has no desire to get involved in multifamily. But the campground thing was really appealing to her. We're really interested in short-term rentals and this and that, but we wanted something that was scalable and larger than just going and buying one vacation rental. So this fit the mold. We have a team of 6 employees who are on site, who take care of all the day-to-day operations for us. And I was able to hire and bring on to the team some of my family members as well to help us in certain capacities. So it's become this family business for us, and we're just in the beginning of it, but pretty cool thing, like I say, it's pretty fun. And like I say, from a cash flow standpoint, stronger cash flow, more opportunities to add value. Again, still a very scalable business. You look at, one of the largest multifamily owners in the country, Sam Zell. Well, he also is in mobile home parks, and he's also the largest owner of RV parks around the country. Right. So there's a reason why he plays in those sandboxes, because they're very, very interesting and lucrative financial investments within the real estate space.
I love it. I love it. Joel, thank you for taking the time to share with us kind of your story of how you've grown your portfolio, how you found value and found out ways to add value, especially buying in small towns, and just that unique strategy. I think that's the cool thing about real estate is there's no end to really the unique ways that people have figured out, hey, this is the way it works, both for your personality and for your for your own checkbook. It's like, okay, this works for my life and for how we want to do things. And then, of course, I love the campground. What'd you call it? A professional distraction. So that's absolutely awesome. If our listeners want to get in touch with you or learn more about you, what is the best way to do that?
Yeah, feel free to give me a call, 906-458-8356. Find me on Facebook. Would love to chat more.
Awesome. Joel, thank you for your time today. We'll certainly include all of that information as well in the show notes. Have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. Hey, thank you very much for having me.